Ryan's Office Revenge.
The coffee in my hand cost $4.50. The email on my screen was about to cost me everything I'd built over 18 years. Subject line, organizational restructuring, mandatory assessment meeting. 2 p.m. I'm Brandon Cole, 46 years old, 18 years at Pinnacle Systems. Divorced father with a daughter, Olivia counting on me for her final year of college tuition. Read the email twice. Corporate language always hides bad news behind professional words. Organizational restructuring never means promotion, means they're tearing apart what works and calling it innovation. Watched it happen to others over the past 6 months since Apex Ventures bought us out. Roger Hayes from sales, 61 years old, 25 years with the company, gone in a workforce optimization. Diana Walsh from operations, 45 years old, solid performer. Skills mismatch, they said. Translation, too expensive, too experienced, too comfortable asking questions. Now my turn. The thing about working somewhere for 18 years is you remember when it was different. When I started at Pinnacle in 2006, we were 40 people in a converted warehouse, everyone knowing everyone else's kids' names. I was 28, fresh out of my divorce, desperate to prove I could provide for my 8-year-old daughter. Operations coordinator, $35,000 a year, no real benefits except the chance to work my way up. And I did work my way up. Stayed late when others went home. Learned every system, every process, every client's quirks. When the Morrison Technologies contract nearly fell through in 2008 because of delivery delays, I drove 6 hours to their facility at midnight with replacement parts in my trunk. When Pacific Manufacturing had quality issues that could have cost us $500,000, I spent 3 weeks on site debugging their production line. That's how you built a career back then. Show up, solve problems, prove your worth over time. Management noticed. Clients noticed. By 2012, I was operations manager. By 2018, senior operations manager overseeing the entire East Coast. By 2020, I was making $98,000 and managing 12 people who actually respected me. Also went through the hardest part of my life during those years. The divorce in 2016, when Olivia was 12. Sarah couldn't handle the hours, couldn't handle that work consumed me, couldn't handle being second priority after client emergencies. She moved to California, sends birthday cards sometimes, calls on major holidays. I became everything to Olivia. Father, stable parent, homework helper, college counselor, the one who showed up to robotics competitions and debate tournaments running on 4 hours of sleep and too much coffee. Made promises after the divorce. Promised Olivia that things would be stable now, that college would be covered, that she could focus on her engineering degree without worrying about money. Kept those promises for 8 years. Put away $40,000 in her college fund. Covered her first 3 years at State University. She's 20 now, finishing her mechanical engineering degree. Talking about graduate school, trusting her dad to keep his word. That's what made this email feel like a punch to the stomach. Closed the laptop, checked the time. 1:47 p.m., 13 minutes until whatever came next. Called my brother Shane in Denver, the one person who understood what this job meant to me. They called the meeting, I said when he answered. Today, 2 p.m. Same pattern as Roger and Diana. Shane was quiet for a second. You ready for this? No. But Olivia doesn't know yet. Want to keep it that way until I know what we're dealing with. Whatever happens, Brandon, don't let them make you feel worthless. You're the best operations guy in the industry. Everyone knows it. Thanks. I should go. Call me after. Grabbed my phone, walked toward the conference room like a man heading to his own execution. Past cubicles where people suddenly found their screens fascinating. Past the break room where conversations stopped when I walked by. Everyone knew what these meetings meant now. The conference room smelled like industrial cleaner and recycled optimism. White walls, gray carpet, motivational posters about innovation and digital transformation that nobody believed anymore. 3 people sat at the oval table, a setup that immediately told me this wasn't a discussion. Bryce Sullivan at the head, new CEO, 34 years old, MBA from Wharton, hired by Apex 8 months ago. Never actually built anything but loved tearing things apart and calling it modernization. Wore expensive suits and used words like synergy and optimization in every sentence. Madison Torres to his right, COO, 29 years old, McKinsey consultant background, the kind of executive who measured everything in spreadsheets and thought institutional knowledge was just old people refusing to adapt. Jennifer Park from HR on the left, 31 years old, brought in specifically for these transitions. Her job was making layoffs sound like opportunities. Brandon, Bryce said, voice dripping practice sympathy. Thanks for coming. Please, have a seat. Like I had a choice. Sat down across from them, kept my back straight. If this was happening, I wouldn't look weak. Madison slid a folder across the table. We've completed a comprehensive skills assessment across all departments. Skills assessment. Code for we hired consultants who've never done your job to tell us you're obsolete. After careful analysis, Bryce added, we're implementing role adjustments to align with our digital transformation initiative. Digital transformation, the death knell of anyone over 40 in corporate America. Jennifer jumped in with the HR script. We want to emphasize that this reflects no judgment on your past performance, which has been exemplary. This is about positioning our workforce for future challenges. Opened the folder. Read the first page, then read it again because my brain refused to process what my eyes were seeing. Current position, Senior Operations Manager. New position, Operations Associate. Current. Salary, $98,000. New salary, $42,000. The room went quiet, except for the hum of fluorescent lights and my own heartbeat hammering in my ears. $42,000 a year. That was a 57% cut. Olivia's spring semester tuition alone was $18,000. Her apartment was $800 a month. Books, food, gas. We were talking about $25,000 a year just for her to finish school. Looked up at Bryce. His face showed nothing. Professional blank slate, like he was discussing quarterly reports instead of destroying someone's life. This has to be wrong, I said, keeping my voice level despite everything inside me screaming. It's not wrong, Madison said, eyes on her tablet. Not on me. This reflects appropriate market positioning for your adjusted responsibilities. My responsibilities haven't changed. I'm still managing the entire East Coast operations. Still the one clients call when systems fail at 3 a.m. Still the one who saved Morrison Technologies $200,000 last quarter when their supply chain collapsed. Bryce cleared his throat. Your responsibilities will be adjusted accordingly. We're implementing a reverse mentoring program. You'll be paired with Ryan Williams, our new digital operations specialist. Recent Stanford graduate. Very bright kid. Ryan Williams. 24 years old. I'd seen him around the office for 3 months. Good kid, smart, eager. But he'd been here 12 weeks. I'd been doing this job since before he could drive. So I'm training my replacement? I asked. You're learning from him, Madison corrected. Digital native perspective. Fresh approaches to legacy processes. Legacy processes. That's what 18 years of experience had become. Legacy. Something outdated that needed to be replaced by whatever they taught in business school these days. Jennifer leaned forward with her practiced HR smile. Brandon, we really see this as an opportunity for growth. Cross-generational knowledge transfer. You bring institutional wisdom. Ryan brings innovative thinking. Institutional wisdom. Another way of saying old. What if I don't accept this? Bryce blinked. Then we'd consider it a voluntary resignation. There it was. The trap they'd used on Roger, on Diana, probably on dozens of others across their portfolio companies. Accept poverty wages and public humiliation, or quit without unemployment benefits. Either way, they won. Either way, they saved money and got rid of expensive experience. I need time to consider this. We need your decision by end of business today, Madison said, checking her Apple Watch. 5 p.m. Stood up, picked up the folder, walked out without another word, past Jennifer's fake smile, past Madison's cold efficiency, past Bryce's practiced indifference. Made it to the parking garage before everything crashed down. Sat in my car, engine off, staring at concrete walls painted institutional beige. $42,000 a year. Broke it down in my head. That was roughly $3,500 a month before taxes, maybe $2,600 after. Rent was $1,200. Car payment, $350. Insurance, utilities, groceries. That left maybe $800 for everything else. For Olivia's expenses, for emergencies, for the life I'd promised to provide. The math didn't work. Couldn't work. Not with a daughter depending on me. Phone buzzed. Text from Olivia. Dad, great news. Professor Williams wants me to apply for the graduate research program. Full funding if I get in. Application fee is $500 due Friday. Also need transcripts sent. Another $200. This could be everything I've worked for. Stared at that message. $700. Yesterday I wouldn't have thought twice. Today it felt impossible. Typed back, That's amazing, honey. So proud of you. I'll handle the fees. Focus on the application. But my hands were shaking as I typed it. Called Shane back. How bad? They want to cut me from $98,000 to $42,000. Operations associate, reverse mentoring with a 24-year-old. Silence on the line. Then, Jesus, Brandon. That's not restructuring, that's humiliation. Tell me something I don't know. What are you going to do? I don't know. If I quit, I get nothing. No unemployment, no severance. If I stay, I can't pay Olivia's bills. I can't even pay my own bills. There's got to be another option. Sat there for 90 minutes, watching other people walk to their cars, watching the afternoon light change, watching my entire life recalculate itself. Started thinking about how I got here. 18 years. I'd given Pinnacle 18 years of my life. Started in 2006 as an operations coordinator making $35,000. Small company then, 40 employees, everyone working overtime because we believed in something. I proved myself every single day. First year, I streamlined the supply chain process that saved the company $200,000 and kept us competitive when larger firms tried to muscle us out. Second year, I landed the Morrison Technologies contract that grew into our biggest account. By 2010, I was managing operations for 60% of our client base, built relationships, not just processes. When Daniel Morrison's daughter got into MIT, I sent her a congratulations card. When Elizabeth Garrett at Garrett Industries lost her husband, I was at the funeral. When Pacific Manufacturing had their plant fire in 2015, I worked 18-hour days for 3 weeks to keep their operations running through temporary facilities. That's how business worked. Personal connections, trust built over years, knowing that when someone called you at 3 a.m. with an emergency, you answered. You solved their problem. You became irreplaceable. Or so I thought. Then Apex Ventures bought us in 2023. Private equity should have been my warning, but management sold it well. Strategic partnership, they called it. Growth capital. Scaling opportunities. CEO. Mark Stevens stood in front of everyone saying nothing would change. How they valued our institutional knowledge and client relationships. What they actually meant was consultants. McKinsey came in first, spending 6 weeks interviewing everyone, taking notes, asking questions about processes that had worked fine for 15 years. Then the optimization began. Started quiet. Administrative staff first, consolidation of redundant roles. Then support positions, efficiency improvements. Then middle management, flattening organizational structure. My team went from 12 people to 4. Work didn't shrink, just got dumped on whoever remained. I handled client emergencies at midnight, covered positions that didn't exist anymore, explained failures I hadn't been briefed on because nobody was left to brief anyone. Watched good people get pushed out with corporate doublespeak. Janet Martinez, 52, accounting manager for 14 years. Role elimination due to software automation. Translation, they bought an app and fired her. Steve Walsh, 58, facilities director since the company started. Outsourcing of non-core functions. Translation, they hired a building management company for half his salary and eliminated his pension. Each time I told myself I was different. I was client-facing. I generated revenue. I was irreplaceable. Turns out nobody is. Pulled out my original employment contract from my bag. Something told me I'd need it. Read through it carefully for the first time in years. Found what I was looking for in Section 12. In the event of material change to position or compensation exceeding 25%, employee may terminate without penalty and without standard notice period. 25%. They'd cut me by 57%, more than twice the threshold. Also found something I'd forgotten. No non-compete clause. Pinnacle had been too small back then, too trusting. They operated on handshakes and good faith. Their mistake. The information they needed was in my head anyway. 18 years of relationships, client preferences, system knowledge, vendor contacts, knowing that Morrison's CEO preferred morning calls, that Garrett Industries hated long meetings, that Pacific Manufacturing's procurement manager was a stickler for documentation. That wasn't proprietary information, that was experience. That was relationship capital built over nearly 2 decades of showing up, solving problems, earning trust. That was mine. Phone rang. Unknown number. Almost didn't answer. Brandon Cole. Yeah, this is Roger Hayes. Remember me? Sat up straighter. Roger, the guy they'd pushed out 6 months ago. Industry veteran, 25 years at Pinnacle before Apex decided he was redundant. Of course, Roger. How are you doing? Better than expected, actually. Listen, I heard through the grapevine about what's happening over there. The restructuring meeting today. Stomach tightened. How did you know about that? Diana Walsh called me an hour ago. She just got out of her meeting. Same playbook. Salary cuts, demotions, forced mentoring with kids, fresh out of college. Diana, my counterpart in West Coast operations. If they were hitting her too, this wasn't about my performance. This was systematic. Look, Brandon, I didn't call to gossip. I called because I've got something you need to hear. You know Summit. Dynamics? Summit Dynamics, our biggest competitor for the past decade. Family-owned, steady growth, everything Pinnacle used to be before Apex got their hands on it. They've been watching what Apex is doing to Pinnacle. They know good talent when they see it getting mistreated. Are you free for coffee tomorrow morning? 7 a.m. Mitchell's Cafe on Oak Street? Should say no. Should tell him I needed time to think. Should probably report this conversation to HR. But I was 46 with a daughter and a salary offer of $42,000 that wouldn't cover her textbooks. I'll be there. Good. And Brandon, bring your client list, the one in your head. He hung up, drove home on autopilot, parked outside our apartment complex. Didn't get out right away, just sat there watching the lights in our third-floor unit. Olivia was home studying, probably working on her graduate school application, not knowing her dad was trying to figure out how to pay for it. Our apartment, 2 bedrooms, decent neighborhood, close to her university. Been home for 8 years now since the divorce. Olivia decorated her room herself, engineering posters, debate team trophies, photos with friends, normal college kid stuff. Normal life I'd worked 18 years to provide. All of it balanced on a salary they'd just cut by more than half. Went upstairs. Olivia was at the kitchen table, laptop open, surrounded by printouts and notebooks. Looked up when I came in, smiling that bright smile that reminded me why everything I did mattered. Dad, perfect timing. I'm working on the research proposal for the graduate program. Professor Williams thinks I have a real shot. Want to hear about it? Sat down across from her. Always. She launched into an explanation of her mechanical engineering project, something about improving wind turbine efficiency through blade design optimization. Smart kid. Brilliant, actually. Had her mother's analytical mind and apparently my stubborn persistence. The best part is if I get into this program, it's fully funded. Tuition, stipend, everything. I could start working toward my PhD immediately after graduation. PhD. My daughter, the first person in our family to go to college, was talking about getting a doctorate. Pride swelled in my chest despite everything else falling apart. That's incredible, Olivia. I'm so proud of you. None of this would be possible without you, Dad. You keeping everything stable after Mom left, working so hard to pay for school, never making me worry about money. I know how much you sacrifice. Had to look away, clear my throat. Made dinner together, pasta and salad, nothing fancy but comfortable. Normal evening routine. Helped her review her application materials. Listened to her practice her presentation for her senior capstone project. Did all the dad things while my brain ran calculations in the background. After Olivia went to bed, sat at the kitchen table with my laptop, pulled up Summit Dynamics website, read everything. Client list, leadership team, company history, press releases, employee reviews. Founded in 1994 by Daniel Morrison Sr. Yes, the same Morrison family whose son ran Morrison Technologies, one of my biggest clients. Still family-owned, 3 generations working together. They'd grown steadily for 30 years by doing things the right way, investing in people, building relationships, focusing on quality over quarterly profits. Everything Pinnacle used to be before Apex Ventures bought us and turned us into another portfolio company to be optimized and flipped. By midnight, I knew what I needed to know. Summit Dynamics was stable, well-funded, better managed than what Pinnacle had become. They'd been growing while private equity gutted my company from the inside, closed my laptop, poured myself a beer I didn't drink, just held it while staring at the wall. Thinking about choices, about loyalty, about what I owed to a company that was trying to humiliate me out the door. Phone buzzed, email, from Bryce Sullivan. Subject, decision required, time sensitive. Brandon, just a reminder that we need your response to this afternoon's role adjustment by 5 p.m. today. Please confirm your acceptance via reply to this email. Failure to respond by deadline will be considered declination. Bryce, looked at the time, 12:47 a.m., technically tomorrow, technically past deadline, didn't respond. Set my phone down, went to bed, sleep didn't come, kept running numbers. $42,000 divided by 12 months. $3,500 before taxes. Maybe $2,600 take home. Rent $1,200. Car payment $350. Insurance $200. Utilities $150. That left $700 for food, gas, Olivia's expenses, emergencies, life. The numbers didn't work any way I calculated them. Kept seeing Olivia's face when I'd have to tell her we couldn't afford graduate school. Kept hearing her ask why everything had to change. Kept thinking about promises I'd made after the divorce. That things would be stable. That she could focus on her education. That Dad would handle everything. At 5:30, gave up on sleep, made coffee, sat in the dark living room watching sunrise over the city. Thinking about Roger's call, about Summit Dynamics, about roads not taken and bridges that might still be there to cross. At 6:15, got dressed. Business casual, professional but not desperate. If I was doing this, I'd do it right. At 6:55, pulled into Mitchell's Cafe parking lot. Silver Honda already there, exactly where Roger said it would be. Time to find out what came next. At 7 exactly, walked inside Mitchell's Cafe. Roger Hayes was in a corner booth, late 50s, reading glasses, looking at his phone. Saw me, stood up, extended his hand. "Brandon, thanks for coming." Handshake was firm, confident. Slid into the booth, coffee already waiting, black, no sugar. "How did you know how I take it?" Diana told me. "She pays attention to details, always has. Is she coming?" "Already did." Different meeting, same opportunity. Roger pulled out a folder. "Here's what I want you to know. This isn't charity. This isn't some old-timers club feeling sorry for each other. Summit Dynamics has been planning this for months." Slid the folder across, opened it with hands that weren't quite steady. Summit Dynamics, Senior Director, East Coast Operations. Base salary, $115,000. Performance bonus structure tied to client retention and growth. Full benefits package. 4 weeks paid vacation. Signing bonus, $15,000. Had to read that twice. $115,000. More than I'd been making at Pinnacle. Why so much? "Because you're worth it," Roger said simply. "Because they've watched Apex destroy good people for quarterly profits. Because they want to build something sustainable, not strip mine it for parts." He leaned forward. "Brandon, we're not talking about jumping to another corporate grinder. Summit's owned by the Morrison family. Remember Daniel Morrison from Morrison Technologies, your client for 8 years? I nodded. His father started Summit 30 years ago. His son Daniel Jr. runs the operations now. Family business, 3 generations. They understand that experience matters, that relationships take time to build, that loyalty goes both ways." "There's something you should know," I said. "I'm not coming alone." Roger raised an eyebrow. "Diana, if she's getting the same treatment and you said she was, we've worked together for 12 years. She knows West Coast operations better than anyone at Pinnacle. Already planned for. Her offer's been approved. Diana Walsh, Deputy Director of Operations. She starts Monday." "What about my clients at Pinnacle? What about them? They're going to get screwed when Apex brings in cheap replacements. Morrison Technologies, Garrett Industries, Pacific Manufacturing. These are relationships I've built over years. These people trust me." Roger smiled. "That's exactly what Summit is counting on. Quality service, experienced management. What do you think happens when those clients realize Pinnacle replaced you with Ryan Williams? Smart kid, but 3 months on the job?" Phone rang. I looked at the screen. "Bryce Sullivan." Roger nodded. "Answer it." "Brandon Cole." "Mr. Cole, this is Bryce. We haven't received your acceptance email from yesterday's meeting. That's because I haven't sent it. The deadline was 5 p.m. yesterday. We need your decision now." Looked at Roger. He was watching me, waiting, coffee cup halfway to his lips. "I've made my decision. I'm resigning, effective immediately." Silence on the line. Then, "You can't just quit without notice. Check my contract." Section 12. Material change in position or compensation exceeding 25%. I have the right to terminate without penalty or notice period. More silence. "You'll regret this," Bryce said. Voice tight now, corporate mask slipping. "No," I said. "I regret not doing it sooner." Hung up. Roger was grinning. "How's it feel?" "Terrifying and incredible. When do you want to start?" "Monday?" "Monday works. Welcome to Summit Dynamics, Brandon." Drove home. With the windows down for the first time in months. Stopped at the bank, deposited the signing bonus check Roger had given me. Picked up groceries, the good coffee, steaks for dinner, flowers for Olivia. Got back to the apartment around noon. Olivia was at class, advanced thermodynamics or some engineering course I couldn't begin to understand. Left the flowers on the kitchen counter with a note. For my brilliant daughter. Application fees covered. Go change the world. Dad. Sat at the kitchen table, opened my laptop. Time to burn the bridge properly. Started writing. Subject, moving forward. After 18 years with Pinnacle Systems, I've decided to pursue a new opportunity. Effective immediately, I'll be joining Summit Dynamics as Senior Director of East Coast Operations. I want to thank each of you for the trust you've placed in me over the years. Those relationships have meant everything, and I hope we can continue working together in my new role. If you'd like to discuss transition options, please don't hesitate to reach out directly. With gratitude, Brandon Cole hit send before I could second guess it. Sent it to every client I'd worked with for the past 18 years. Responses started within the hour. First from Daniel Morrison Jr. Brandon, congratulations. We've been concerned about service quality since the Apex takeover. Can we schedule a call this week to discuss moving our contract? Second from Elizabeth Garrett. About time. We've been waiting for you to make this move. Let's talk Monday about transitioning our account. By 3 p.m., I had responses from 8 of my 10 major accounts. All wanted to discuss making the move to Summit. Phone rang. Madison Torres. Mr. Cole, we need to discuss your unauthorized client communications. I sent a professional notice of employment change, standard practice in the industry. You're attempting to solicit our clients. No. I'm informing people I've worked with for years that I'm changing companies. What they choose to do is up to them. We'll be pursuing legal action. For what? I don't have a non-compete. I haven't taken proprietary files. I haven't shared trade secrets. Check with your legal team before making threats you can't back up. Silence. Then she hung up, started laughing. Not because it was funny. Because for the first time in months, I wasn't the one scrambling. Wasn't the one trying to hold things together with duct tape and hope. Wasn't the one taking hits and pretending everything was fine. Olivia came home around 4, saw the flowers, read the note, hugged me so hard I thought my ribs would crack. Dad, what happened? How can we afford this? I got a new job, better company, better people, better everything. But I thought you loved Pinnacle. I loved what Pinnacle used to be, what it became. That wasn't worth loving anymore. She looked at me with those serious eyes she got when she was thinking hard about something important. I'm proud of you, Dad, not just for the job thing, for showing me what it looks like to know your worth, to not accept less just because someone tells you that's all you deserve. Had to look away for a second, clear my throat. 2 years later, Summit offered me VP of Operations. 3 years after that, Olivia finished her PhD and got hired by one of Summit's clients as a lead engineer. 5 years later, Pinnacle folded completely. Apex sold the assets to a holding company that liquidated everything. If I'd stayed, if I'd accepted that $42,000, if I'd believed their promises about adaptation and growth, I'd be one of 40 people with nothing. Instead, I was a VP at a company that valued experience, with a daughter who'd achieved everything she'd dreamed of. With financial security I'd earned the hard way. The lesson was simple. Your value isn't determined by what someone offers to pay you. It's determined by what you're willing to accept. The moment you stop accepting less than you deserve, everything changes. That's what happened when Bryce slid that folder across the table and told me I was worth $42,000. He was wrong, and thank God I knew it. Sometimes the best thing that can happen to you is someone showing you exactly how little they value what you bring to the table. It forces you to look elsewhere, to people who understand what experience actually costs and what loyalty actually means. I learned that morning in Mitchell's Cafe that there are still companies run by people instead of spreadsheets. Still places where doing good work for a long time means something. Still bosses who understand that replacing 18 years of knowledge with 3 months of enthusiasm is a losing proposition. The coffee in my hand that morning cost $2.50. The decision I made there changed everything that mattered. Experience isn't just about years on the job. It's about understanding that some battles are worth walking away from, especially when the fight is rigged against your dignity. The companies that survive long-term are the ones smart enough to recognize that institutional knowledge can't be Googled and relationships can't be automated.